Morning cellists. Here we are on the 5th day of the Technicals week, week 10 of the lockdown. And today is actually going to be a short and sweet little video because yesterday's was extremely elongated, much longer than I intended really, about looking at types of pizzicato, the left things for the left and right hand. So today I thought we'd just touch on bow articulations and length of strokes and methods, and for you to have something to listen to with regard to the beginning of the sound shape and the end of the sound shape. And we often focus on the beginning and not the end. And to become aware of the method, for example in a short stroke, as to whether you're leaving the string or not. Let's start with right from the basics at the very beginning. Firstly, I'm just going to use a few examples of just going up and down part of the D string. We're going to stay on the string and keep the sound running one note into the other. In other words, legato, separate bows. That's pretty much it. And I mean, there is some careful sound shaping in there. If I were to keep the same pressure the whole time, it's already starting to get a bit of a front end on that, or almost becoming marcato-like. So in actual fact, if we're sort of just doing what we think is a natural bow stroke, we've got a slight, a lighter pressure at the beginning of the stroke, and then we ease off at the end, and our ear likes that. And often you may find that you've done this inadvertently, not realising how and why, by beginning on slightly the edge of the hair. And that pleases our ear. However, in the training, it's really important not only to go with things that you like the sound of. You need to explore sound boundaries and truly understand what your options are, and really over practice, I suppose, our technique to understand the full palette. So momentarily I'm just going to try the same portion quite aggressively. So we're going to have a very hard beginning. Now that is truly a martelé kind of stroke, quite hammered. And I've remained full pressure at the beginning and the end of the stroke. But there can be cases where it's quite useful to practice something in a very articulated manner like that, so that when you lift away from it, you have a real cleanliness of stroke and good articulation between the two hands, or coordination between the two hands. Let's think a little bit more back to the sort of smooth idea and getting away to shorter notes that we are more familiar with. So in the smooth idea, we could also have slightly less pressure at the end. So in those strokes you can hear a little bit more push on the beginning of the sound and absolutely tapering away in a feathered way towards the end. There are very many variations obviously that you can put into this. We're just touching the water today. You're looking at bow speed, bow pressure, location on the area of the string here, and depends on what you're doing and what the rhythmic pattern might be. Let's move on to a standard staccato. So a standard staccato, the same little phrase. In this instance, I'm actually staying on the string. So I've got the pinch, it comes away from pressure, but in actual fact the bow hair remains on the string. Of course, if I didn't let go of the pressure, I'd have that cutthroat sound at the end. That's because you've left it on the string without reducing the pressure before it comes to a halt. So yes, by all means practice it in that slightly aggressive fashion where it sounds a bit cutthroat, but then if you want to improve it, you just need to let go of the finger pressure here. So it's more of a pinch and a release, and the release, I'm still staying on the string. Now if you find that a little bit difficult and you're only getting the cutthroat version like that, then the next thing to practice, and in any case we want to practice, is coming off the string. So we begin with the pinch, and I'm coming away. I've actually come right away from the string by ½ centimetre. There we are, coming off the string. If I did the same on the string, it's a slightly longer stroke. And in all instances of music, you'll need to make a decision about what is the appropriate length of note during the duration of the note, and what is the beginning sounding like. Is it going to be a hard edge or a soft one? And what is the end like? A hard or soft one? It's really unlikely to be hard unless you've got an aggressive version of, you know, something maybe in Shostakovich Symphony or something like that. You know, thinking about something which needs that kind of articulation at the beginning and the end of the strokes. So there would be a case for it. The majority of times you're going to be looking at a slightly softer sound at the end of the stroke, even if it's an accented one. So let's try the same portion with an accent and a long note this time. So for the accent I'm using a mixture of speed and pressure. That's for another day. But you can hear in between that the length of the note remains long, there's no gap. But we could equally have gaps with the accents. And the intention there is to stay on the string. So you could hear an accent, then the length of the note, and then it stops on the string, release of pressure. If I were to do the accent, the length of note, and stay on with pressure, at that point, if we stay with pressurised on the string, it's going to be quite a solid and intense sort of sound right to the end. So it's giving you some idea about trying to tune in with your ear to what's actually happening, not just at the beginning of the stroke and not just in the middle, but also at the end. And all these things relate to each other about bow speed and pressure. So we've had a little look there at martelé, legato, staccato, on and off the string, martelé, and accents. And we've also touched briefly on marcato, which is kind of fairly firm, but we release the pressure. Something that's more accented probably. That's a little bit more of a typical marcato. And every context is different, so it depends on the period of time, what the rest of the orchestration is like, the other things that are going on within the musicians and orchestral structure or chamber music structure. Even in a solo cello work, you'll need to still look to see what's appropriate in the context, and not all dots over a note will mean a staccato in just a fashion. You know, there's going to be many variations. And for another time, that would also definitely include if you see a slur mark with staccato. Sometimes all it means is a separation, and sometimes it means staccato. That's a little bit of getting nearer to a kind of a bounce there, or sautille. Okay, so moving on, in fact, to the idea of something coming a little bit more off the string there, we could look at spiccato. Now, spiccato can be on or off, and it can be with the arm or the wrist. So we could have, let me just think of an example. Now this one was more arm oriented, but if I were more wrist oriented, I think it's getting nearer to sautille there. The sautille, I mean, there's a kind of a bit of a crossover between what's spiccato and what's sautille. The spiccato is more likely to be with a length of note upon the string, even if it's a short length, you know, controlling a bit of the length, potentially forearm or wrist. And the sautille, definitely you're raising the arm, and you're going to be around about balance point, and it's definitely much more of that thrown away kind of feel to it. Something like that, so it's really, really, really coming off the string. Okay, as I said, today's lesson is really short, and I'm just going to touch on a few of these ideas, and I'll point you in the direction of some very useful books if you like. Another bit of bouncing that we should consider I'm just thinking about the fact that I mentioned it's on and off for the spiccato. So spiccato on, then off. So that's a fairly long stroke, and that's trying to come off the string there. There's a little bit more with the arm trying to come off there. But that's, as I mentioned before, the sautille, your arm is slightly higher. And we're definitely using the balance point and bouncing off in some sort of natural fashion. Now, thinking of bouncing off in natural fashions, a fun thing, if this is still beyond your current level of learning, or something that you're not interested in because you've got it sorted, either way, a bit of fun and easy fun for bouncing your bow is ricochet. You can do this really right from the very beginning of your learning. So what I propose is you're looking at being on the D string, fairly near the bridge because it's quite high pressure there, in which case your bow is going to bounce really quite easily. We're going to go for the top third of the bow, and all you need to do is you're holding your bow perfectly normally on the string, and then if you just imagine that your wrist, if you like, is going to be a pivot point, a fulcrum, and it's going to just lift up the gate like this and drop. And that's all initially, just drop the bow and let it bounce till it comes to a stop. Now do the same, but take your arm that way once you've dropped. Drop and pull. This is good on down bow, so just return to the same place and drop and pull. Now initially just let it bounce as many times as it wants to till it comes to a stop. And then when you feel happy with that, you can try going on up bow, but you may find that doing the up bow straight away, you could find it difficult because you're going against the weight of the bow. You know, it's much easier to drop it and take our weight away than it is to push into the weight. So you may find it's better to do down, followed immediately by up. Now once you've had a few plays of that, get a bit more creative. Have a little count for it. Maybe we're going to go 1, 2, a triplet and 1. Maybe 4 and 1. Maybe 5 and 1. And in fact, you could, in order to kind of really feel the control of it and get coordination, we could have the last note as a stop note. So let's do the triplet and 1, and 4, and 5, and next step, add more fingers. So you could have a lot of fun adding more and more into your bow stroke, and that's ricochet. You could also enjoy it quite fruitfully at the bottom, maybe sort of stopping a fifth here. In a drum-like fashion. So there's a few ideas about the bouncy versions of the bow, different lengths of bow, and remembering that the articulation of the bow is the beginning, the middle and the end. And it can be on the string, off the string. It can be using mostly the forearm muscle or the wrist or the fingers. In actual fact, with a really good sautille, what we're looking for there is lovely flexibility in the fingers, like in the Elgar second movement of the concerto. So what else have we covered there? I think that's pretty much it. So which part of the arm, whether you're on or off the string at the end of the stroke, the placement of the arm is slightly high for sautille. And of course there's also like where we are upon the string, and as we were discovering in ricochet, if you're nearer to the bridge it will bounce an awful lot easier because it's lovely and hard. It's a bit like a really well suspended trampoline, if you like. Really easy, a little bit more woolly there, and it's vibrating a lot more. You may not hear how many notes you're playing and therefore not have a control of the number of notes that you would like to put into it. And of course you could have fun like I was messing around playing up the scale, going up and down, or it could be a chromatic, or even happy birthday, whatever you like. You can bounce your bow and amuse yourself with pieces that you're already learning. Anyway, enjoy a bit of exploration of the bow, and I hope you've enjoyed this short and sweet little excerpt of bow technique.